We're going to call the meeting to order. Okay, first off is public comment. Any public comments? Okay, hearing none. We have two sets of minutes to approve, May 27th and June 24th. We'll start with May 27th.
Motion to approve May 27.
Second.
Alton and Bill, if you don't mind just state your name through the motion.
Right, when you give a motion or a second, please say, or you speak, say your name, please.
Carlton Hunt, motion to approve.
Second, William Smith.
Okay, any discussion?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
We need a roll call?
Yep. And we'll start with you, Gina.
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
William.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, unanimously passed. Then we have June 24th. I just have a couple of things to add, Josh, just for people that attended. And Barbara,
Motion to approve, and then we can discuss.
okay,
Second.
okay,
Harry.
Please just state your name.
Carlton again.
And William, if you wouldn't mind just stating your name in a second.
okay, and it was Harry to second.
Harry second.
Was Harry the seconded? Okay, thank you.
So Gina, you had comments.
Yes, it's just to add a couple of people onto the guest list. Sound like I'm planning a wedding, the guest list here. Barbara can probably help out with complete names because the whole name doesn't show on the participants. There is an R. Lawson.
That's me.
Okay.
Rachel.
Rachel, okay.
I don't know how to get that name off of there, but.
Okay, then it was Gloria, and I'm going to mispronounce it, Weinreb. It's
Close enough.
W-E-I-N-R-A-B-E.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, and Gordon.
Gordon
What is-
Brailsford.
What is your last name, Gordon?
Brailsford, B-R-A-I-L-S-F-O-R-D.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, so, okay, the motion was to approve the minutes the way they are.
Motion to add the names.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, that was Carlton and Harry again. Okay, all in favor of approving minutes of June 24th with those few names added? Say aye, or the roll call.
Start with you, Gina.
Yes,
Carlton,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
William.
Yes.
Thank you.
okay, that's good, we got that taken care of. Financial update, I didn't hear back from Laurie Garini, but I actually don't imagine much has changed. I just know other than like paying Josh and the Golson contract is the only other thing that I know of that was paid was the fencing for Legion Field. And I don't imagine a lot for tax money has come in. We should see for our next meeting because taxes are due the start of June. So we should see hopefully in a good size increase. Okay, so other than that, there's really no financial update. I've also asked Larry for an update on like how much we have in each of our pots, just so that that can be refreshed in our brains too.
Gina, just a quick question.
Sure.
Does Lori know when she's going to have the FY20 books closed? Because I know that she's probably doing that right now.
Right.
But I imagine she'll probably have that for the next meeting.
Yep, I can double check with her.
They typically take, and I don't know what this year is, but typically it takes a couple, 3 months to
Yeah.
get officially
Right.
closed. But our stuff should be accurate.
Right.
Jennifer, have you heard anything on that, when they might close? You can say it.
No, I have not. Sorry, muted. No,
Okay.
That's
Good.
okay.
Yeah. Like you said, it usually takes a couple months to get everything set. But I will check that with her. Okay, next is the Congregational Church application. We have it broken into 2 discussions and 2 votes. First one is the application analysis discussion and vote. That's just to clarify the difference. The second is funding eligibility discussion and vote. The first is if we can consider the application according to the 3-point test in the anti-aid amendment. So we'll start. And the second is if we decide vote in the affirmative on the first, the application analysis discussion, if we vote in the affirmative, then we go on to funding eligibility, discussion and vote. If we decide on the first one, we vote in the negative, then the second motion, the second discussion doesn't need to take place. So any questions on that? Okay, hearing none. Okay, discussion for the application analysis. We've all had time to look at the application. 4 of us submitted our analysis to Anna, which she compiled and sent out. And I thank the ones that did it. And I know everybody else that they're probably right up on what they wanted to say, and they can bring it out in the discussion. Okay. What I personally did and what was requested of the committee was to look at the 3 points. I have my thoughts on it. Does somebody else want to start? Then I'll do mine, or would you like my thoughts first?
Well, Gina, this is Carlton. I think Anna did a great job of summarizing. But if you want to go through individual comments, that's fine.
I agree, Phil. She did her. Okay, I just want to, I had to set up a separate little table here for all my papers that I have tonight. Usually I just have a few. Yeah, in my comments was one of the ones in here. I think that, well, I guess my questions are more on the funding, but I do have a couple of things on the 3-point test about the first one for aiding. Looking at reading the whole thing and with peeled eyes to no end, many times reading it, I think that the first point, yes, it is for the purpose of historic renovation, but I also see a lot in there that is to aid the church, not aiding them in their purpose of religion, but aiding them in general maintenance repairs. So that's one thought on that. I think too, for the second point, I'm trying to read I reread it beforehand. And I guess this gets down to the budget part. Is it a substantial help to the church? Substantial funding to the church? My personal opinion is yes. But I guess, and I'm not really sure which discussion these points should be in, if it should be now or in the second discussion. And the third, the application and patent and hold does avoid the risks that prompted the anti-aid. I just think we have to look at the possibility, excuse me, of entanglement because for that lump of money. But that's just something we have to look at closer. So my thought is, yes, it meets in part or in whole on each of the points. I don't think any of them, it's a complete, it touches on hitting them. I don't know how, others feel. I did, I've read a couple times in his compilation. I'd like to hear from the ones who didn't submit or any other thoughts, even thoughts of what I just said, if that makes sense.
Well, it seems to me
Okay.
that all
No,
of the,
no more discussion on that?
sorry?
Bill?
Yeah, it seems to me I went through 140 pages of the submission, and
Mhm.
it seems to me that all the money that has been requested is for the historic preservation of the building. We're talking about the building itself as separate from the church in its religious context. So that's how I read that. So I can't. It just seems to me that it's the requests refer to the preservation of the building.
Mhm. Okay.
As I said,
How did
I did say that in my comments.
Mhm.
I also, I took a really hard look at the terminology and I looked really hard at the test phrase is maintaining or aiding. And as Bill just said, and I think the summary clearly documents that pretty much all of us that made written comments indicate that it's physical restoration slash refurbishment versus an interpretation or perpetuation of religion.
Right.
I think it's pretty convincing. And I was just reading some of the report a little bit ago, and I hadn't realized the same architect that did the town hall and I think the back original building of the Academy building was the same architect for this building. So there's a trioca of buildings right there in that end of the common that the same architect did. And I think that carries some weight in terms of its use.
Mhm.
But I don't find it perpetuates religion. I found nowhere in the document that they were asking, and I do fully understand that the aid, even doing maintenance or restoration, could be aiding a church. But I think we have to really focus on the historic nature here.
Right. I am focusing on the accountant, but my part of that is I'm not looking at it as aiding its purpose of religion. I'm looking at it as aiding the church. Some of the things I see are just general maintenance, and we could get more into that when we actually, if we get to the next discussion.
Again, remember, I hear you loud and clear, but we have to answer the question as to whether this grant is for maintaining or aiding a nonprofit or religious organization. And I find it
Right.
for historic preservation, nothing more and nothing less.
I agree.
Mhm. I do to a point. But I think it's also aiding in things that coulda, woulda, shoulda been done. And, Monday morning quarterbacking is great to look at. But thoughts from others?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from anybody that hasn't submitted it in writing.
Right. Okay, whoever that was just real muffled.
Kevin Mandeville has joined the meeting.
Okay, good. Hey, Kevin?
He's muted.
Okay, he's muted, but he should be able to hear.
Unless-
Okay, how
I don't
about,
know how to unmute on calling
is
in.
Jean still here? Did we, oh, there's Jean. Jean, yeah,
Hmm?
okay.
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Hey,
I'm
Jean,
sorry
you
about that.
thought?
I had
Yep,
put
we can hear.
mine all in writing.
Oh, that's right, you put,
Yeah.
that's right, you did. I'm sorry. Okay, Kevin, your thoughts on if this application is to aid the church or historic preservation?
Yeah, well, I tried to make a meeting with the attorney, but for some reason they never got back to me about it. So I never conferred with them, unfortunately, but I did reach out. I mean, what they're asking for is definitely something that I do not approve. The $1.5 million, of course, I think that's way too high, you know, to start off with. I will say that, I mean, I think we should give them, you know, like as far as like this, I think we should only offer them, you know,
Kevin,
around
I
30
want,
or 40,000.
Kevin, I would like you to answer the questions that we're dealing with directly here. I understand the financial piece, but you weren't on. We're going to talk, if the committee votes this forward, then we will consider the funding type and level. But first of all, we need to determine if we believe this is invoking the anti-aid or not. That's the only question on the table at the moment.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
right now-
thank you, Carlton, for clarifying.
No problem.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
I believe it has some validity.
Okay, and I'm not denying that. I agree it does have a lot of validity. I just think there's a real fine line on that one. Then on
Of course.
I think it's also important to point out that the church is in the historic district. So it's already been designated as an important historical landmark. And that should carry some weight as well. I mean, the town voted for this district back in the 80s and determined even then that that building was of significant historical importance.
Oh, I
that's
agree.
Bill?
What's
Go
that?
ahead, Kevin.
Well, just really quick, I agree with that statement. I think that's the only thing that really has what it's going for itself, is that it's in a historic district.
Bill, can you expand just for a second when the historic, I think you were involved or around or have been for quite a while on the Historic District Commission. Can you describe what went into that designation in 10 sentences or less?
Oh, I don't know about 10 sentences, but the first, I was involved in 86. I've been involved since, I think, 92. But the town had to apply to the Mass Historic Commission to designate an historic district. We had to have an historical survey done of all.
Somebody's scrunching paper. I can't hear Bill.
Sorry, you can't hear?
No, there was a background noise that I couldn't figure out what it was.
Oh, okay. The Bridgewater Improvement Association actually funded a $75,000 architectural survey to be done by a Boston architectural historian, and he documented in great detail all of the historical buildings in the town of Bridgewater. And at that point, then Carolyn Morwick, who was very active, she was a select woman. This was before the town council, of course. And we had a number of meetings. The historic district was at one point a bit larger in its initial stage, and then when the vote actually went to town meeting, it was somewhat reduced in size to include the common and all adjacent buildings around the common. I remember there was a lot of discussion later on about the importance of the town hall, the Academy building, and the Congregational Church being kind of the three anchors on that end of the common, forming a kind of historical triangle. And so it was always considered historically an important landmark in the history of Bridgewater.
So just one more question, Bill. Thank you for that. I hadn't realized that formation effort. When you do that, did each building was documented as part of the application?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's why it's on that, because it's in the historic district, that's why it is on the state register.
Exactly. It's already on the state register. Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you for that, Bill. Yeah, I'm not questioning that it's not a historic building. I'm just saying we need to look at that fine line. Are we aiding them in actually restoring the building? And as I said, this could be something that's more the discussion of, the parts to actually approve for funding if we get that far. However, I think we have to look at what we're actually aiding them in general
Gina,
maintenance things, or things that are actually restoring.
Gina, talk to me a little bit about what you mean. There is a fine line. I had the conversation, and there is a fine line between aiding, and we are faced with making a decision as to whether or not this financial aid crosses the line. And my question to you is, you keep saying that you have reservations. What are your reservations?
Well, not that I think it passes each of the steps, but not completely. I just think the part, the aiding part, we're actually aiding them in their general maintenance too. That isn't actually part of, in my opinion, actually restoring the building. Don't get me wrong, there's tons in there that are restoring, but I think we just need to look at that line. And like I said, maybe more so once we get into the budget part, what we're actually, the funding, what parts we're actually going to fund.
Yeah,
So
I'd like to get a little bit more. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope, that's just my thought on that one.
Yeah, and I'm trying to focus it on the very word aid. That's, if it's $1 that's figured to be aid, then it's aiding. If we don't think it's aiding the church in the way it's been explained by the town attorney, then that's fine. But it's not going to be, it's either, this is kind of a yes or no question. It's not yes, but maybe not. We can't do that. We have to be definitive here.
Yes, I agree.
Right. The town attorney kind of agreed to, because I had spoken to him. Just that we have to watch that, and this is my term, the fine line of it. Because
Yes.
it was, Carlton, go ahead, I'm sorry.
He did indicate to me that, there are reservations. There are, I'm not going to find the right word for this, but there could be someone that would say, well, your intention is to help the church. the church. Then you get into what is the church. Is it the building, or is it the services that go on? Is it the community services that happen? You know, then you get into definitions. And right now, I think it's the building. I think we're aiding them in a historic preservation of that building. The specifics to be determined if we pass this.
Mhm.
I think that's my take. And in fact, I think I had written in something of mine here. What was it? I really focused on the risks, the 3-factor risk, step 3, A, B, and C. Oh, I don't think, I've looked at this and I make the statement to myself as based on my assessment above, which was basically we weren't aiding them. I believe the risk to their term, liberty of conscience, is de minimis. You have to think about, are they trying to draw members in by doing this? Or is the church trying to expand its outreach by doing this? And to my way of thinking, the request clearly states and supports its request is for historic restoration, preservation, refurbishment, not, in my words, for the perpetuation of a religion or for infringement on the beliefs and practices of others. That's where I've been thinking is this going to help their religious practices or not? And I also looked at the risk. Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead, Kevin.
No, okay, yeah, just really, I mean, I agree with everything that just Carlton just said. I mean, there's always a risk of someone somewhere, you know, accusing us as aiding the religious agenda. I think that's always a risk, but you know, I think we have to make a decision because this has been pending for so long. But I mean, my thought really is let's just focus on the physical, you know, the physical as far as like the outside and the structural integrity. And I think that's as far as we should go, because I think anything more, we're kind of inviting trouble.
Okay, and that's what I am looking at, the physical building. And that's where, to me, and we can get into this, the funding part. I just think that parts are actually aiding them, not in their purpose of religion, not aiding them to increase their members. I'm not looking at it that way to aid them. I'm just looking at, are we aiding them monetarily for things that aren't really to the historic preservation? I'm all for it. I think it's I think it was actually in their project narrative. It is, I think this is the word they use, one of the jewels of the center. I think it's an unbelievable building. I think it gets great use. It's just, I just want us to be aware of, to look at that. Are we aiding them? Are there things that they should just be covering with their own money that really aren't part of the historic preservation? That's where I'm coming from. I'm looking at the building. I'm not looking at the congregation. I'm not looking at their purpose. I'm looking, are we just aiding them and paying for things that should just be general repairs? That's where I'm coming from on that. But
yeah,
can we talk about?
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, can we talk about specifics that specifically now that we can say we can give the green light to, and then if that's an agreeable, you know, figure, we can just approve it?
Kevin, we're going to talk in detail if this passes this stage. We must pass this stage or not.
Yes, we're not.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I think it's
okay. Right now, it's just if it's and I think it is a valid application. It's just I do have reservations.
So,
But I don't think I don't think it's a clear black and white yes or no on each answer. I think that yes, it does pass. However, we need to consider such and such.
yeah,
But
so,
you know,
sorry, Bill, you were trying to step in.
Well, I was just going to say that the church is not falling down. It's in fairly good condition. They just want to preserve it and to restore its authentic architectural details. We're not aiding the church in it's not going to fall down next week. I mean, it's in relatively good physical condition. They want to take off the vinyl siding, which we are very interested in the historic district in their undertaking. I mean, all of us are familiar with the specifics of the grant application. All of these will just enhance the architectural beauty and integrity of this important building. And I think we've got to keep that in mind. And they've been consistent in that application that they want to preserve the building and restore it.
So I'd like to make 3 points, and then I think we should move on. But I'm looking at the risk examination. Is there a risk that public funding would result in entanglement with the religion? My personal feeling is that the public funding for this project would not result in entanglement with the religion. Rather, the application and funding will result in achieving one of the many elements of the town's goal to improve the Bridgewater's downtown area. That's point one. Point two is there a risk that the public support of the religious institutions would be threatened? Is there a risk that public support of religious institutions would threaten civic harmony? I think the large range of support letters that were provided from business, from individuals, there's a dozen there, I think. I didn't go back and read all of them, but I know it's a large list. I think that large range of individuals and organizations supporting the application leads to minimal risk to the risk of civic harmony. There is minimal risk. I didn't say none, but I said minimal. And I'm going to state my final conclusion is therefore I find that the Central Square Congregational Church application for the Community Preservation Act funds passes each element of the SJC's 3-part anti-aid test. So I'm saying that it passes all the tests.
I think it passes all the tests as well. And I just want to quote the letter from the lawyer. He says, this is his concluding statement. The anti-aid amendment and the holdings in the Acton case do not bar approval of CSCC's application for the funds sought to restore the historical church building. I mean, I think that's abundantly clear. Lawyers are not frequently that specific. And I was very glad that we got his interpretation.
Now, are you talking Attorney Rollins or Attorney Plant?
Plant, yes.
Okay, right, their attorney.
Yeah.
The church's attorney.
So one last point. The amount of, and this is just some people were worried about this being precedent setting. It's not. We've already funded the first church for a total of $69,738 in 2 previous applications. So this is not setting precedents for funding churches in Bridgewater. It's not setting precedents, if we pass this, for churches in the state of Massachusetts. So I want that to be very clear. This is not precedent setting.
Carlton, thank you for having that amount. I had just started on the CPC when the Unitarian Church was funded. And I was actually the liaison, not knowing much about CPC, but I was a liaison for it. I just have two comments on what you said, and I'm not sure which point it was, or it might have been Bill that mentioned the letters of support for the project. I think it was great. I think the group that used the church, I've gone to many programs in there myself. I think it's great they make it available to everyone. What I noticed, I'd say, I can't remember how many letters, but the majority of them said what wonderful people they are, what a wonderful church it is, which I'm not denying because I think so too. However, only a few of them actually mentioned the project. Most of them just said they're wonderful people. You know, would they support a $1.5 million project? I don't know, because it didn't say that. But so that's just my comment on that. The other thing is just the it was on the two, point number 2 about substantially aiding the church. I personally think that 1.5 million is considered a substantial amount. I know it says, and it was an attorney Plants thing, that the town of Acton case, a grant, and the amount, this is for the Supreme Court, that as in the Judge Kaplan versus the town of Acton case, a grant the amount of $49,000 was neither minimal nor insufficient. I'm sorry, that was Attorney Rollins' letter. The amount requested by the church, by the Congregational Church, is 30 times higher than that. I think it is substantial, the amount.
But we have to keep in mind how expensive historic preservation is. Remember when we undertook to restore the Academy building, the final restoration, Carlton, wasn't it almost double what had been budgeted or originally thought?
Hey, what I can speak to is I think this committee back then voted $5.5 million towards that restoration, with the remainder being made up from operational funding, not an override, but $2 million or something. But they spent they spent most of the money.
Wasn't it 8 million or something for that project?
It was under, I don't remember the number, but it was under 8 million. But I want to stay focused on the church and not compare.
Yeah. But historic
Okay.
preservation is unbelievably expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Hold on.
everything has to be bench made, as the Gale Associates pointed out. I mean, these architectural details are not available at Home Depot, and they want to replicate them as closely as possible to the original. And these efforts are unbelievably expensive.
I can imagine. I just know home repairs, what they are, and then it's not anything to the degree or quality materials needed.
So,
Okay.
Gina, I don't know if there's more discussion to be had.
That's what I was just going to say. If there's no more discussion, we can just take a vote on it.
No, we have had a discussion. We have not been under motion.
Right,
So
that's what I
someone has
said.
to make-
If there's no more discussion, we'll create a motion and a vote. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any more discussion on this? Okay, Anna, do you have anything to add? Okay. Okay. motion to, I lost my paper on the motion. Motion to accept the application and move it on, that it's a viable application and move it on to the funding discussion. We need a motion for that.
So moved. William Smith.
Okay, you have to say what your motion is, Bill.
Can I be heard?
Sorry.
You need to state the motion, Bill.
Oh, okay. I move that we move the motion to that we accept the 3-point criteria, and that we move the grant application to a vote on the actual allocation of funds.
So I'm not going to second it yet, but I just want to clarify. The motion is that we're declaring the application eligible for historical preservation money.
That's better. Thank you, and simpler. So I move that we declare the application eligible for CPC funding.
I will second that.
Okay, roll call, Josh.
More discussion?
Yep, I'm sorry, more discussion?
I think that's
I'll-
pretty accurate. I like that.
Yep, any discussion from anyone else? Okay, all in favor of Bill's motion to,
Roll call.
Roll call.
Nina?
Yep.
Carlton?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Harry?
Yeah.
William?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Thank you, is approved.
did I vote?
No. I think you did.
Yeah, I had you, I start with you, Gina.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Okay, moving on to the funding discussion. I put together just kind of, I tried to come up with a chart for what parts I thought CPC could fund, which were eligible for funding. I was going through the recommendations and driving myself absolutely crazy trying to retype them all. So what I did was I just put together just a brief, and Josh is gonna share their screen, just a brief chart that just shows like the exterior and the interior things that, according to the Dale Associates, needs to a part of historic preservation. And I just put a couple notes on the side. I think, and you can actually, if you want it bigger, you can just pinch it out too. I just hit some of the things that I saw. Thank you. That I just hit on, things, as I said, I try to take all the recommendations, but it would have been like 20 pages. So I just, simplified it here. There are a lot of things for windows, but I have a question for the Barbara or Gordon, Rachel, whoever else from the church. A lot of the things, and I listened in on the Historic District Commission meeting the other night, which I thought was very good, very informative. A lot of the things in the recommendations said, like the roofing, is that included in the budget narrative? Because on page 47, it says the condition cannot be accurately assessed, the roofer needs to be engaged. So all those things that are like recommendations to hire somebody to do it, hire a professional, or hire somebody with a lift to get up and look at the roof. From what I gathered from the Historic District Commission meeting, that those things weren't into the budget until the CSCC had a budget. So I guess my question is, all those things, including roofing, siding, a lot of those that say, some of them are really clear in the Gale Associates narrative. I learned more about the putting together of a church and windows that I didn't think I ever wanted to know, but I know it now. And I think it was a great job that they did, but there's so many, to me, unknowns in the quote. So is that going to add another $500,000 onto it? How is all that going to be covered?
I can answer that question, Gina, because we actually brought this up last month.
Okay.
When we had an addendum added to the budget narrative, because the church has already paid for and put up over $100,000, which was all of these studies that they had to do. The crane was down at the church for several days. They got up on the roof and they looked everything over. The fine detail that we went to the meeting last week with the Historic Preservation Commission, and they were asking for more details and the architect's numbers and plans and type of materials he was going to use. They have done all those studies, but they did not release them because we still owe them money for those studies. And once we pay them, they will release all those figures in greater detail, but those studies have already been done.
Okay, they have. Okay.
Yes, they have.
Okay.
And so that will not add to more, like another 500,000 that you said. But what we did learn last week is, since we have already paid for that to the architect, then it is not reimbursable money to the church. So the churches are, we didn't know that at the time, but it makes
Right.
sense, of course, because the application has not been approved. So we have already done the studies and we've already put a lot of money out. And so what we've submitted, the 1.5 or 1.6 million, is what we know so far is the total figure.
Okay.
Just a quick question on that. The architect is not releasing what they did until the application is approved?
No,
no.
no, that's
No.
not correct. The architect is not releasing those figures until the church pays a small balance to what we still owe them. So we didn't want to, the church did not want to put any more money out until we find out who we're actually going to get approval of the application. And once we get approval, we will find the money to pay the architect off, and then we can submit all those figures and descriptions and details to the Historic Commission, and we can also submit more paperwork to you if you want it.
Okay.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it.
Okay.
This is Carlton. I want to make sure, I'm going to try to repeat what I think you said
Okay.
so that it's clear, to me at least. Your architect has gone into greater drawing details already in terms of each of those elements of the restoration/preservation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, that's, can I jump in here?
And Gina, can I finish?
Yep, go ahead.
And they've done that, and they've done that as part of their scope, but their scope and your money didn't cover that entire scope of drawings, correct?
No, the money, it's only it's more than 2/3 of the studies that they've done. They still want to put up planking inside the attic of the church to go up to study the interior of the church, where so that they can be sure that their men are all safe up there when they do the construction up there. And so there's just one more study that they have to complete, but we had to stop that until, because they were billing us each month.
Yeah.
And so we just want to know what's going on with your committee. And so once we give the go-ahead, they'll go up and complete that last study. I think it's another $11,000
So
to do that.
it's a worker safety study and
Yes.
also helps a little bit with some of the potentially weak areas of the building.
Yes,
11,000. Wow. Oof.
yeah.
Okay,
Thank you for clarifying.
okay, I'm just going to look for further clarification on that. And Bill from the Historic District Commission from last week, I
Yeah.
understood it as when somebody asked, I think it might have been Bill, I'm not positive, asked the Gales Associates person
Yes.
about the same thing that I did. There's somebody, hire somebody to do this and inspect that. And I understood him to say that those would not be done until he got the okay from the church. So I understood it as those were not done yet.
I think what he meant is these figures would not be released until the church paid the final balance of the bill. But like I said, more than 3/4 of the studies have already been done. And these studies had to be done in order to put in for our application for the grant money to your committee. And so we thought they would be included in the grant money, but of course we paid it in advance of being approved of the grant, so.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll just add some to that. I have to go back and look at this, but there are certain prohibitions about what CPA money can be used to cover. And I believe, but I'll have to get back to you on this, but I believe that we cannot fund the final building and restoration diagrams and designs and that kind of thing. I'm not sure about that, but I believe that's something we cannot pay for. But the fact that you've already incurred costs, we cannot pay for that either, as you learned at the last meeting.
Right.
Well, you still have to do these studies in order to do the work.
Yes, you do.
Right.
You might have to eat that cost. You might have to digest
Yeah.
that cost.
Okay,
Right.
well, we're going to be looking for more grants, lots of grants.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and
I
you-
added,
Well,
I
we're not in the
added
business
up
of
the-
rebuilding churches.
Right, I added up the potential grants that look like they could be applied for according to your budget narrative, and it's almost $200,000. So that
Excellent, that's good.
that's if you get them all. That's
Get them. We may have run past the deadline now.
right. Okay, so all these things have definitely been done, because Bill, what was your interpretation of that? I took it that they weren't done until they got the budget okay from they didn't say payment, they said budget okay.
Well, that was my understanding, but I'm sure that Barbara is accurate in what she says. I doubt that the architect would say in a public meeting that a client had not completely paid for his services, and he'd probably find that very awkward. So he tried to be polite, I think. So I believe exactly what Barbara's saying. But at the same time, thinking about it again, he did say that those specifics had been completed but not released yet. So he did not give the reason to us why they'd not been released, except to say that there wasn't a final budget in place. So some of the work would be contingent on the final operating budget of the project. That was his explanation.
Okay, I tried to go back to look at the meeting, and it still hasn't been posted to YouTube yet. I wanted to re-listen to it before tonight.
Yeah, but that's what he said. He said he could not release the specifics of the plan until they had a bottom line budget figure. That was the explanation, right, Barbara?
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're in a bit of a conundrum right now.
Mhm.
Because we can't make, all we can do as a committee is recommend a certain amount of money for a set of specific activities. And we make that recommendation to the town council, who then goes through this process on their own, and they can have three choices. They can fund our recommendation as submitted, they can reduce the cost, or they can deny it. So we're not there until we get through that town council effort, and that takes them probably 2 months. But
Okay,
yeah, but we're at a point where we don't even know what number we should think about
correct.
until we get some additional details as to what actually is the restoration elements, the actual restoration elements. And what I've seen and I've started reading the architectural review again. I've seen that there are some structural elements on the tower. And I forget what he called it. It wasn't a steeple, it was something else.
The belfry.
Belfry, and it used to support a bell, and that bell was used to warn the town of fires. So there were some structural needs there, not a lot, but some. And then the other piece that I saw that caught my eye was the removal of the vinyl siding and the restoration of the exterior, an examination and any restoration necessary or refurbishment necessary for the envelope of the building, sans
No.
sans the religious windows. Sorry, I'm losing my head here.
Stained glass
windows.
glass.
So that's what I think this committee can't really move forward too much until we get some estimate. Because I will assure you, I will not vote for $1.5 million. I don't think anybody in the committee will, and I pretty much guarantee you the town council will not.
Mhm. Thank
So
you, Carol.
Well, the only figures we have that I know of are the preliminary cost estimates that was part of the budget narrative. Is that right? Do we have any other figures beyond that, beyond those?
No. Nope.
And we don't have it broken down into, here's what we think that structural piece might cost. Here's what we think that the siding removal and restoration will cost. We don't even have that level of specificity right now.
Mhm.
Well, we've
Yeah.
got a section on structural repairs. That's $43,000. Doors and windows, 142. Roofing and drainage, 133. Exterior finishes, 96. That would probably include removing the vinyl siding and painting and restoring the envelope of the building. I mean, these costs are fairly specific.
Thank you, Bill. I didn't realize it had been broken down that way.
Yeah, I'm looking at one of those pages. It was early on in the packet.
Right, and it has, and it's basically what we've had from the start. I think it's the exact same amount. I don't see anything that's changed on it.
May I say something?
Yeah, hold on, one second. Or
Okay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. And then I'll.
Okay. When we originally submitted the application, we had submitted a detailed description of everything that was to be, all the job details. I was asked by you to give a revised version of it, and that's why you have the single page. But originally, we were giving you something, too much information, and you asked for a smaller version. So that can be emailed right back to you again by the architect.
Okay, that would be
good.
great. And I think we had also asked at one point for you to prioritize, just in case you don't get the whole 1.5. Is it what's your priority? The windows, the steeple,
Yeah. Start at the top and work down,
okay, that makes sense.
what we were going to do, yes.
Yeah, okay, that answers that. But
No.
I think we need to know like rough carpentry. Like how much is it to kind of echo what Carlton was saying, which is a concern of mine. Yes, we do have our preliminary cost estimate, but I'd like to see it says windows and doors, okay, for roofing, it says, you know, that, okay, you said the roofer has been hired, but what was actually determined by that? Is it put on a new roof? Is it repair what's there? We don't know. For windows, I agree, and it's a wonder I didn't get stopped by the police today because I went by there so slow, looking at the front of your church and I forgot what they called it. I'm with my hands again. It's the Italian part of me. The curved part above the windows. I know there's a name for it.
Arch?
Well, that's a good one. I think
Is it called
I think
Valencia? Valencia, part of the window or something?
I think so. That and the Mundans, I never knew what a Mundan was till I read this thing. But, you know, those are definitely the historic preservation. Needs to be done. It needs to make the building restored to look like it should. It's in a prime spot right in the center of town. I love our center. I love our common, all the historic buildings around it. But some of the things for windows, like I didn't agree with. That is it actually historic preservation, or is it just upgrading a window? Many parts in there. The Gale Associates person said, such and such a window, there's nothing wrong with it, but to update to a newer model. But he's saying there's nothing wrong with it according to the preservation. So I think we just need more of a breakdown. And like for the siding.
Gina, let me try something a little different.
Okay, shoot.
We need you guys to come back with us with clearly a reduced cost proposal, but we need you to propose the cost as best you can guess at this point or determine for specific elements like the structural repair of the steeple. How much is that going to cost? Like the building siding removal. If the roof is going to be brought back to some tin roof that was on there 90 years ago, that's restoration. Fixing shingles is maintenance. So we need you to think in terms of what you're asking for to be refurbished or restored and give us only those parts in the proposal.
Correct. I agree.
Correct.
A price for each element so then we can follow it through and as one of our administrative functions to follow it through.
We need specific in numbers with what is purposeful, what's purpose it is.
Right, I agree.
Can I just
Can I
chime in
ask a
here?
question?
Oh,
Sure.
sorry. Yeah.
Is that Jean or Anna?
Yes. Under restoration, or even, I guess it would be under remodeling, whatever, a sprinkler system will have to go in? And that would be, I'm assuming.
Mhm. Do you have a sprinkler system already, Barbara?
No, we don't, but I did learn that if there's a restoration over a certain amount of money, that a sprinkler system would have to be installed. And I think this restoration project is over that amount, so a sprinkler system would have to go in.
But it's not historic preservation.
No,
No,
A sprinkler system's pretty low on the priority list in my
but
humble
it, but
opinion.
Yes and no, because if you're
Right,
gonna
if the law
do a
says,
whole historic preservation, you don't want that thing lost.
No,
Right.
at the time we submitted the application, we did not know that a sprinkler system would be necessary or needed or required. And so we learned that after. So this is, again, another additional cost. And I don't have any idea what that would cost. We haven't looked into that.
Hmm.
Well, I think the
You
problem is once we roll over one stone, two more pop up, and that's
Yeah.
what happens with restoration, and
Yeah.
that's the rub.
Yeah.
So we really have to make hard decisions and say this is what we're going to want to focus, laser beam focus on. That's within the parameters.
Another way to handle that, I think we're saying it is, give us a single project, but that project is one element of your restoration. And then if you have a second one that you get more concrete cost on, then you can come back to us for more money. But that's another way to try to get it forward. Not try to put 5 different things in the same project.
right. Right, good point. Okay, if you guys want, like, this was just a rough breakdown I did just to separate, windows, the entry doors versus like interior doors. I can ship you this just if that helps any. But
Your architect should understand, I don't know what's going on, but he needs to give you packages, cost packages for each of those elements, not all the windows in one place and the siding as part of that.
Yeah,
Gotta be focused, like somebody said, laser focused.
just to chime in here, I know I went back to the original application, and they do have a detailed breakdown for each of these elements, and I can send that out by email again, just so everyone has it.
I would prefer to receive a revised cost proposal that focuses it down. I don't want to have to study it that way. Please.
Yeah, I just want to give the church the benefit, just like the benefit that they did do that originally and did break it down already for.
right, Anna, if you can send that to us, and I agree with Kelton as far as the revised revision application, that we could insert that in, but I'd be curious just to see the original too.
I apologize. Yes, I'll look at the original, but when I did that original, I wasn't able to ascertain, and it's been a long time ago, but I wasn't easily able to ascertain what the cost of, I'm going to stick with the siding restoration, because that's the one thing I think is really clearly
I'd like to go on a little bit on the siding.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause that would probably be the first thing.
Okay. The siding was put on for a reason. Once the siding is taken off, you don't know the condition of the wood underneath or the reason why the siding was put on. So it's going to be real hard to estimate what that's going to cost.
Well, they've done
remember
this.
reading that
let him finish.
that the siding is, from what they've seen, is in very good condition. That's what the Gale architects reported in their comments.
Yeah, the siding's in good condition, but what's the wood like underneath? You can't see it, and you won't see it until the siding is taken off.
Well, they've done
Correct.
some.
Go ahead, Barbara.
This is Barbara. They've
Yeah.
already done some spot studies around several places of the church underneath that aluminum siding, that vinyl siding, and the wood underneath is still in very good condition.
Right.
And so, but the book put out by the Rules and Regulations of the Historic District Commission, it says vinyl or aluminum siding is not permitted in the historic district under any conditions. So that has to come off. And
Yeah,
it was put
I read
on.
that.
It was put on the church 2 years before it became a historic district. And the reason it was put on, because of course it was cheaper to put the vinyl siding on than to paint the church.
Mhm. Okay,
Okay.
so they have, Harry, did you have more to add for that, Harry?
No, it's fine.
Okay, so they've checked the, I know they've done like a spot testing and the wood is okay, but as Harry said, what if they get 4 feet up and the wood's not good anymore? Like my house has aluminum siding and it's been on here for, God, I can't remember how long, but I'm sure if they took it off, the wood's not gonna be the quality that it should be. So, you know, that's one thing to think about too.
Well,
I don't think they're planning on removing the clapboards from the exterior of the building unless they determine that if there are a few soft spots.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So it'd be repairing those soft spots. That's the word I was trying to think.
Yeah.
Of words. Okay.
So the proposal would be something like this. The church proposes to remove the current siding and plans to refurbish the, whatever year old that siding that is, to include painting it one of the original colors of the church. My preference would be that it is likely going to be the color of the town hall, not the Academy building. The Academy building was supposed to have been painted the same color as the town hall, but a goof occurred. So that would be the level of stuff. What's the cost of having a historic color paint of some era? I think it was mentioned somewhere that it would be, what era are you trying to restore to? That's important. But that's the level of thinking I think we should receive on that siding proposal.
I agree. As far as if the study's done, I believe, Barbara, that it's been done. I'm looking at, I guess it's page 38 of your application, and it says, where is it? Engage a preservation carpenter to lift the sections. Okay, that's been done. It talks about the length, and it says, consider the option of restoring the facade of the church by removing siding, repairing flush boarding and clapboards preparatory to repainting. Even if the siding is not removed, trimmings and exposed areas of flush boarding will require careful preparation of repainting. So are you looking at removing the siding, or are you looking at not removing it and just repainting the trim? We need to know like that level of detail, not just remove siding, because it's not clear in your application what you're doing. At least it's not to me.
is that the project narrative?
That's the whole thing that has all the pictures in it.
Oh, okay.
That might be the historical preservationist report.
This is from Gill Associates.
Okay.
It's I think it's page 38. I enlarged it so I could see it better. Yeah, it's page 38. It's just under the recommendations. Then he talks about, okay, the ear vent. But the main part of the siding, he talks about, you know, consider the option of doing this, but we don't know which option you're looking to do. So I think we need something like that clarified too. That and the roofing, as Carlton said, I think those are the two that we need a breakdown for all of it, as Carlton said. But my biggest things are the roofing, that it's not clear in the application. I have many big things on this, but that I'm not clear about is the roofing and the siding. Like, you know, as Carlton said, you're putting on a new roof or you're just repairing the shingles. We need to know that, because the section on roofing is the same. It's like having somebody look at it and then a determination be made, but we don't know what the determination is. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Just had a really quick question too. Do we know for sure, I'm not sure if this was already answered, forgive me if it already did. Do we know if any of the wood on the siding is rotten as a fact?
No, we don't.
There was a statement, there was a statement in the historic part of it that some of the trappings up above might have a little bit of decay and that kind of stuff, but
Right.
that's the most I saw.
And that's all we know, right?
And that's stuff that should be restored because that's historically significant architecture.
Yes.
Right.
Of course, yeah.
Well, Kevin, as Barbara said, they did do a little bit of evaluation in different spots underneath the hill. But that's not the whole church.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And just to go even deeper, out of those samples that they did take, what did it? Was it good? Was it good wood or was it rotten?
It was good wood.
It was good wood.
Good wood.
Okay.
Now, another thing with the siding that's on the church now, the siding usually has a life of about 30 years, and we're approaching pretty close to 30 years, so we would have to replace that. And I believe it's our interest now is to go back to the original exterior siding of the church, take all that vinyl or aluminum siding off. So
That sounds like restoration to me.
yeah, that's what we really want to do.
Right. And
The Historic District Commission will not approve an application that includes vinyl siding.
Yes,
I can tell you that.
right. We don't want it anyways.
And you don't want it, so,
We
yeah,
don't want that.
we're on the same page there.
Yes.
But
So in the interest of
Bill-
moving on, you guys ask us more questions. We're talking at you. I want to hear your concerns about what we're requesting that you come back with.
okay, can I just ask a question of Bill first?
Yeah,
To reply to what he
Yeah.
said, and then I agree. You know, we should hear from the CSCC people. Did I say that wrong? Congregation, yeah,
No.
CC, yeah, I said it wrong. You guys know what I mean. Bill, you said that the Historic District Commission would not approve the application or the renovations with vinyl siding, but if they're not changing the vinyl siding, they're just leaving it on, would the HDC not approve, say, the windows and the steeple?
But they indicated that some repair had to be done to the vinyl siding, and that's where we would say no. We would say you cannot do any repair to the vinyl siding, because the architect indicated some parts of the vinyl siding have to be replaced and so forth, and so we would say no to that.
Okay, I didn't see that in all these things, but,
Well, Carlton quoted something or somebody did a moment ago.
okay, right. If they're actually repairing the vinyl siding, I can see that, but if it's decided that they will just leave it, that they're not changing anything. What they're saying is, even if the siding is, this is according to Gale Associates, even if the siding is not removed, trimmings and exposed areas of flush boarding will require repainting. That's not repairing the vinyl. That's the wood that.
I can't imagine they would want to do that. I would imagine that removing the vinyl siding would be one of the first things they would want to do in any historic preservation. I mean, they're going to all of this trouble and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on an important building, and then they allow these vinyl siding to remain. I don't think they would do that.
Right, but that was just my
More
question.
trust
If
in
they're not actually doing anything to the vinyl, that wouldn't stop you from the HDC from approving the application.
No, but it seems to me that some of the vinyl, if the vinyl is disturbed in any way, then, you know, according to the building inspector's evaluation and assessment of the work and what's going on, then, you know, we would say no to that. But I don't think that's an issue whatsoever. Do you, Barbara?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I think we're all unanimous about removing the vinyl siding.
Mhm.
And
If
So
anything,
possibly that's where your focus should be, on the revised budget submission.
yes. Now, I'd like to ask a question about the original budget that we submitted that was detailed. Too much detail for you. Why isn't that good enough for you now?
I don't recall it being too much detail in it. Did you send that to us now?
Yeah, I did. And I can also pull it up, Josh, if you want to make me an administrative, or I sent it to you, Josh, if you have it and you can pull it up instead. I just sent it by email a couple, maybe like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, okay, I just brought it up too.
So are you asking me to go back to my architect and ask him to submit more details to this already too detailed budget?
No, we're asking you to come back with a budget for a specific part of the project that you consider historic preservation, restoration, refurbishment. You've already indicated that putting a new roof, shingle roof on that is not likely to pass the muster in terms of this being a historic preservation. The siding is a clear potential for historic restoration. Structural preservation of the steeple so that it doesn't fall down is one of those things that could be done, but you have to describe it to us. So I'm saying just go to the numbers that you have and use the numbers and come back to us with what you think is the estimate.
Mm-hmm.
Can you make it bigger, please?
I'm looking at, yeah, I think you can just pinch it out too, Carlton.
I still can on my computer, small
Oh,
screen.
okay. Actually, looking at that, I don't recall saying it was too much information. I think we asked you to have it broken down by prioritize. I might be wrong. Somebody else on the committee can correct me if I'm wrong on this.
See,
I think this is good.
The general conditions are assuming the whole project's going forward and funded. We're not going to pay for all of that. And so that needs to be broken out of this cost estimate as to what it is going to cost to get the proper staging for the side removal and the side restoration, side painting in an appropriate color. That doesn't help me understand your cost for that single project element.
Okay, it does, Carlton. If it was scrolled down, there's a section for windows and doors saying how many, how many windows, replace the vinyl window, replace the storm window. So the detail is there further down, but I think we still need.
And whoever's got control of that, scroll it down a little bit more.
Yep.
this seems detailed enough for me. I mean, I can understand. It's only a page and a half long. So it's not, it's very specific.
Mm-hmm. Right, and this kind of answers one of my questions on what was included in rough carpentry. Because looking at the most recent budget sheet, I had no idea.
So this is their estimate for doing the siding of the building. Is that correct?
Yep, let me scroll down. Okay, Well, it has demolition of vinyl siding, demolition of roof shingles, and sheet metal at belt course and windows. I don't know what that is.
Rough carpentry.
So to the applicant, this is all estimated costs for only the siding removal, restoration, painting. Is that correct?
Well, are you asking me that question?
Yes, yes. You guys are the applicant and I'm,
Okay, well, I have this in front of me too. What Gina has put on her screen. And so I'm seeing what you see, selective demolition, rough carpentry, and Gina has to scroll for us.
Okay, it's Josh. I'm actually looking at it on my laptop at the same time, but Anna has control of it.
so does this include the addition? Does this estimate include work on the addition that was put on back in 1960?
Oh, no. This only includes the main church building, which is the only historical part of that.
It's
of the
only
church.
for the original, now
Church,
original
yes.
building.
The original
Thank you.
building only.
Mhm. Okay, I think it's good, but if it can be broken down to, like it shows the demolition of the removal of the siding, but it's not in the same section of what new siding would cost. So I think we need it kind of like we need it together. This is what it's going to cost to remove the siding and do whatever we need to do with the wood.
Well, but they say under rough carpentry, repair and replace deteriorated clapboard siding is going to be $51,000.
Right, but I would like to see how much, without me having to jump and say, oh, up here under rough carpentry, it says this for the, and try to like cross-reference or co-join the different sections. And this could even be, they wouldn't have to go back to their architect. They could just have somebody from the church look and say, okay, this is to remove the siding. This is whatever it said under rough carpentry, or however it said for that. But put, as Carlton said back a while ago,
Yeah.
to say how much, like for all the costs associated with the siding, all the costs associated with the roof, all the costs associated with the windows.
Yeah, because this what's showing on screen right now, structural repairs, they're all allowances, but I don't know if they're for the siding or if it's for the foundation. Don't have a clue.
Well,
Right.
And interior renovation, I don't think we can go on to the interior at all.
no, well, it says exterior. The top of the title of the project is Exterior Building Envelope Evaluation and Renovation Report. Project title, Exterior Building Envelope Evaluation. It would seem to me that, I can match these things up pretty easily. But when we get to the section about allowances, that is a little bit vague. Site drainage improvements, $20,000 allowance.
That's not historic preservation.
Yeah, and some of these there are quite a few costs that are labeled allowance. So that means these are estimates, I guess.
It's a WAG, what we call a WAG.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Right. And
otherwise, I think it's very specific and it's pretty easy to follow. I mean, the architect just grouped these things. Surely we ought to be able to figure out from the rough carpentry, we're talking about replacing flushboard siding. There are two types of siding on there. There's flushboard siding, there's clapboard siding. Then there are these quoins and the soffits and the fascia boards and the rake boards and the soffit trim brackets. All of those, of course, they've included these interior blinds here, haven't they? That probably would not be allowed, would
Can
it?
you, whoever has control of that spreadsheet, roll it up to the top where he's talking about? I can't interpret.
Yeah, I mean, these are
I would,
All the way up.
rough carpentry. Up, there we are.
And that's for the exterior?
Yes, except the interior louvered blinds. Repair and reset interior louvered blinds.
and
So that-
reconstruct steeple windows. There's another whole section for windows and doors. So I would like to I would like to see them say, okay, this is for windows. Not us have to look under rough carpentry to see windows, to look under windows and doors. I would, and I go back to, I think what Carlton was getting at too, just to see broken down by sections. And I think that's what we had asked way back. I don't remember saying this was too much detail, but maybe we did. But I don't recall it because I think it's great detail. I know we did ask you to break down your priorities, like, you know, the steeple, the siding, the belfry, the doors, the windows, and showing, you know, what it would cost for each of those to help us make a determination.
Gina,
Yes.
I'd just like to point out, Gordon Brailsford from the church, that a lot of these projects are intertwined, especially like the staging. We have put up the staging, which is very, very expensive. That has to cover the removing the siding, replacing the windows, and working on the roof. They're not individual things. It's a combination. And
Yes.
for us,
Right, and
detail
that's
each one
that's
is-
true, Gordon. You know, thanks for pointing that out, and that's true. So I understand you can't break down and say so much, but the general cost, he has a demolition of vinyl siding. But then we have to look under rough carpentry to find out the, I'm trying to find it here. The clapboards, I don't know what a belt course is, but a trim, the fascia and soffits are all like with the gutters. So I understand that things like the staging can't be separated.
We hired the best architect we could get, very, very expensive. We've already invested $62,000 for him to investigate the whole church and tell us what we need to do to bring it up to date. And
Mhm.
if we're looking for doing any more detail, it's like starting the project. You talk about the rafters in the steeple. Those steeples, they all look very good. But if there's one that isn't quite up to snuff, we move it out and then all of a sudden we see another one. And we didn't anticipate that. And you wouldn't know it until you remove the first one.
Correct.
So you have to factor into this.
Right.
So let me try to take us a slightly different direction so we can move forward. Why don't you guys go back and put together an exact list of what you want us to pay for? And keep in mind the historic preservation part of it. We've voted that we think this will pass muster. We're taking a risk there, but we need to continue to address potential town council things about, well, what are we paying for? And I think if we were paying for the siding removal, you know, and that gets into the staging a bit, but if you could just break it down as to what you're asking from us, knowing that we are not going to cover the full cost.
And I think it's something too good that you don't have to go back to the architect or designer.
Yeah.
It's something that maybe somebody from the church could just look and say, okay, this is for the siding. This is what it's going to cost. And then you don't have to put a dollar amount for the staging. Just put a note, stage it portion of staging price from.
Staging TBD, to be determined.
Right. But the main cost, like the steeple windows,
Materials and labor of that type.
right. So you don't have to go back to Gail to do this. I think it's, somebody could just look and say, I keep trying to scroll down on that screen and it's not my screen to scroll down on. Yeah, so I think that, and for like the windows, it's a whole section on doors and windows. And louvers and stuff like that. So kind of just separate for that, the steeple, the siding, the roofing, which I take it those are the most important. Okay, but I have a question on this spreadsheet. Oh, wait a minute. No, I think I just answered my own question. Phase 1 is the steeple, phase 2 is the roof, phase 3 is the windows. Okay, so you did break it down to the phases like we had asked. Okay, but somehow this sheet got lost or not lost, but when the application was revised, the sheet wasn't included. Okay, so I guess that answers my question of your phases that we had asked you to break it down. So that makes sense. Okay, and at the bottom, it's actually, let me scroll down here. Okay. So we can review this too, and if is Carlton said.
Why don't we both take a tack at it? You got, the church takes a look at that and then we'll do it. And we'll see how we come together. But I'm going to suggest we continues to this discussion to the next meeting.
Yep. Thoughts from any other CPC members? Okay. Anna, thoughts?
Well, I have one question.
Sure.
So when is this priority list going to be finished, or like what's the ETA on that?
Well, they've told us on this spreadsheet, Kevin, and Barbara could probably answer better. But phase 1 is the steeple, phase 2 is the roof, and 3 is the walls and windows. I take it that's still your phases and your priorities, correct, Barbara? Or Gordon?
Barbara prepared that. I can't answer that. Barbara's phone is cut off.
Okay.
She has herself on mute.
Okay. I'm presuming that those are still your priorities, the phases. Phase 1 is the steeple, 2 is the roof, 3 is the walls and windows. But I don't see the siding in there as a phase.
Yeah, I thought the siding is the number 1. Yeah.
Well, that's why I said I might be reading this wrong.
I see the siding included in phase 1. Just the items that include the siding go into that. I think just to chime in on I think Carlton, you make a good point that it might be beneficial for the CPC members to also just go through this, but more detailed budget and just think, you don't need to actually, maybe you want to actually write things down, but think about what things you personally would be willing to fund and what elements you would not be willing to fund. Kind of similar to what Gina was doing before this meeting and thinking about what elements like she felt comfortable in, or what things she felt fell into more maintenance. So I think it might just be useful before the next meeting to also just kind of personally reflect on, ahead of the discussion, what elements you would be comfortable approving for funding and what elements you wouldn't. So that way when the church comes back with the priorities in terms of the siding is this much, the roof is this much, then you can kind of think about, okay, well, what elements was I comfortable funding as part of that? And then I think the discussion will be a little more streamlined or fruitful, I guess, in the way of, I don't know what others think of that idea, but that's just one thing that I was thinking about while you all were talking.
Well, the only thing that comes to mind, like for me, I feel like we keep pushing out these meetings and we're kind of like covering the same thing in a way. Like if they already have their priority list, but it seems like they need to amend their original priority list. Am I right? So they need to amend it because they already have one, but they just need to restructure it. Correct?
They
Because if they already have their priorities, what else do we need to postpone?
well,
We don't know how much money to actually, that they're asking for us, and we want to work with them in order to figure out what's actually potentially doable from a funding perspective.
right, like,
Okay. All right.
Kevin, I for one don't feel comfortable. I mean, I can look at this and see, okay, they're, follow across, but there's things like, I'm trying to see where I'm not sure what category it was in, but it was, I can't find it here now going through, but it was like basic landscaping. I don't think that's something that we should fund.
No.
Okay.
I agree 100%. Yeah. It
Right,
doesn't fall
so
within
to
the
look at
parameters
this-
that we agreed upon. Yeah.
Right. And as much as I hate to continue it, I feel it's the best thing for us to look at this and look at the breakdown that the church can give us, that, how much to repair the siding without us kind of jumping in categories.
I just want to interject that I know comparisons are odious, but I think we have to compare what work we have approved in the past. When the town brought the application for the Academy building, did we exclude such things as roofing and landscape? Did we exclude all those things? I know that the final cost was a lot more than what was allocated, but did we specifically say we're going to fund this part of the renovation, this, and this? And if we did not do that, then we're not being fair to the church.
I disagree. I don't think you can compare the two. It's totally two separate functions.
Well,
this is much more of a value add than a church is. The Academy building is much more value add than the church, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, well, there's a reason for making that statement, but we're supposed to look at every single application with objectivity, and I think that is being objective. If we're applying criteria to this grant application that we have not applied to other grant applications, that is wrong. That is not equitable whatsoever. So
I disagree. I think it's on the money. I think we just need to take it.
Bill, let me speak to that. The first church applications were highly specific.
Yeah, correct.
Mm-hmm.
The what church did you say?
The parish, first church. Unitarian Church. They had two things that they included in the first application, and they had the chimney and something else in the second application.
Okay.
It was painting of something.
The precedence is set for this kind of project.
Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Right, and I'm sure there's things too that for the Academy building, I can't say for positive, but I'm sure there's things that weren't funded by CPC. At FDS, I was on CPC at the time, but I actually can't remember.
Right.
But
I mean, I don't think we should even go there to compare it with the Academy building. because it's like it's apples and oranges. It's nothing. It's kind of a separate thing. I understand where you're going with it, with the application process, and we need to be fair and all that stuff. I get it, but it's very different purposes. As far as I'm concerned. So I wouldn't even go there myself.
Well, I
but,
mean, we
yeah.
didn't fund the entire project either. I mean, we funded only $4 or $5 million, and it was about an $8 million project. So the town, but I was just wondering at the level of specificity of funding that we required from the town with the Academy building restoration.
I would
Well,
say.
What's going for the church is that it's in a historic district. That's the big swinger here.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's a lot of other churches in town that I bet would love to have a grant money offered to them, and I feel for the church because they keep going around in circles a little bit. And I feel for them because
Right.
I get that feeling like, oh, we're gonna push it off one more meeting, but it's I mean, how many times we plan on doing that until we give them a solid figure? I know that they need to come back, but I wish we could just put this baby to bed and make it.
I mean, what is wrong with our going through each one of these line items now and determining, is this eligible for CPC funding? Is this eligible? Is this eligible? Is this not eligible? Or are we excluding this?
Yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's a bit premature at this point. I mean, the landscaping seems to be something that we would exclude, and I can certainly understand that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be covered. Yeah, that's not.
And some of the other costs, perhaps, could be excluded. I mean,
Let's do this in the interest of time. Number one, we had 2 other church applications that they withdrew because of various concerns about preservation, et cetera. So this is the 4th application from a church in Bridgewater. That's one. Number 2 is why don't we do what we did with the first element that we talked about on this project, and each of us go through that spreadsheet and cross out the things that we think are not eligible or that we shouldn't be funding. We'll let the church do theirs, and then we can send those crossouts or whatever to Anna, and she can kind of compile it. And if that's what we have her here to help us with this stuff. She can compile a master of what we think is good. Then we'll have a number to work from our perspective, and the church will have a number to work from their perspective. And then we can actually move forward.
That's a pretty good idea. Are there any specific line items here that automatically ought to be thrown out?
Yeah, there are a number, but this is not the meeting to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
I propose that we have another meeting on August 5th, which is also a Wednesday, to come together. So that gives us a week and a half. So in the interest of time, that's a quick, we'll meet again then, and then we can, a week should be sufficient. I would imagine.
Well, we have to allow for us to look at it, for Anna to compile it, for us to look at it again.
Not due August 5th.
Right. I was just going to say the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays are out because we lose people for other committee meetings.
Okay.
But the 2nd Wednesday, let's give ourselves 2 weeks. Let's move this forward. I like the idea. Let's give ourselves 2 weeks. We'll have one topic meeting.
Is that the 12th?
5 plus 7, 12, yeah.
Okay. Anna, does that work for you?
Yeah, I can make that work.
Okay.
I imagine it would be a quick meeting. I mean, if we can just, focus and get through the business, I imagine it would be half an hour to 45-minute meeting.
But just to add a kind of an addendum here, I've noticed that there are some additional costs on the preliminary cost estimate that are not included, I don't think, Are they included in the, no, maybe they are. Sorry. Nope, they are in the detailed, the initial budget narrative form. So forget that. Everything is on this longer form. Everything that's on the shorter budget estimate form is on this initial more detailed form that we have here with all these line items.
And
Okay.
I have to throw this out too. I mean, in the interest of time, if we make a decision on August 5th, and again, it shouldn't take that long, but by the time we approve it, they want to start getting to work in this summer, at the latest. And I think August is the kind of the last hurrah for a timeline to have them have enough time to actually fulfill what they're aiming to do.
Now, Kevin, to add on to that, once we make the decision and we vote on it as a CPC, what we recommend, it goes to the town council, and it takes 2 weeks for them.
Correct. Yes. And I am aware of that. That's
4
why I
weeks
broke it up
out.
into 2 weeks.
Yeah,
At
4
least.
weeks. If it goes to their finance committee, then it does the 2 readings, correct?
Yeah. Town
Yeah.
council refers it to 2 committees. 2 committees meet, discuss it, come back with a recommendation, and then 2 weeks later. And remember, the council only meets once in August, and so the earliest that this is going to happen is early September.
What date do they meet in August for the council? Does anyone know?
The 5th,
Oh, they do meet on the 5th. Okay.
the 4th. You're right. The 5th is Wednesday. The 4th is Tuesday.
Right, so I mean,
Yeah.
they meet every
Okay.
other week, correct?
Not in August. In August, they only meet the 4th, and then they don't meet again until September 8th.
Okay, so there's really, the
Thank you.
council's not even going to send it to their committee until September 8th.
Unless we, I mean, just throwing this out there, but if we meet on the 29th of this month, we would have enough time to submit it for their meeting on August 4th or 5th. So that would save us a whole month if we can move fast within a week, make a decision, everything, all the stars align, and we meet again next week. So just 1 week, we can save a whole month.
I think that's pushing it. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
I can read a packet and make a decision in a week's time myself.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts, other committee people?
Are we going to be able to make our decisions in light of the priority requests from the church committee? I would like to have those 2 documents side by side.
Me too.
I think it might be easier, a little bit easier.
As long as the church, holds up their end and they have a list that they can present, by next week, then it'll be a cakewalk. It should be great.
It's going to take longer than that, because once we make a vote, then we have to prepare a memo. That memo has to document exactly what we are recommending, and that's going to put the pressure on it. So I think it's really pushing it too hard to go next week. I think the 12th is much better.
Okay, I'm just saying if we want to save a month, but just throwing that out there.
I don't think it's possible to save a month.
Yeah. As much as I would like to move it on, and I think we all would, I think we definitely need the more information and the more time to look at it. So just to recap, the CSCC is going to do the breakdown of so much for the steeple, so much for the roofing,
the siding, phase 1, 2,
the
and 3.
siding, things like that. so we're not jumping, and in the meantime, we'll be just knocking out things that we know shouldn't be CPA funded from this list. Then we can take what they give us and say, okay, we're all in favor of, yes, the siding is preservation. The windows are, the exterior windows are preservation. Then we can come up with a dollar amount like that.
When,
Yeah,
when would our next meeting be, though?
It would be the fourth Wednesday,
26th. I understand it.
August 26th.
I think that's too late. I think we have to
I
have
think
a
that's too
special
late.
meeting.
I think that's too late too. I agree with her.
I
Yeah.
agree.
That's pushing it, I think. A little too
August
long.
Okay.
20th should meet on this subject only.
It would have to
I
be
mean-
I
It
thought we
would have-
decided
Gina,
on the
go
12th. No?
right. It would have to be the 12th.
Will the church be
I-
able to submit that by the? Well, I'm sorry. I don't mean to just. How long would it take
No,
for
go
the
ahead,
church
Kevin.
to?
Shoot.
How long is it gonna? If the church members are on this call and can hear us right now, what's the ETA for this priority list from your end? Like what's a solid
Whenever
promise
you
date?
want it. If you want it on the 12th, we'll get it to you on the 12th.
Okay, because I want to get this
Ideally,
moving
Thank
as
you.
fast
I
as
think
possible.
ideally the CPC would want it a week before the 12th so that they could work
Correct.
ahead of the meeting.
At least give us a weekend, yeah.
So I would aim for the Wednesday before to send out those materials.
Okay,
Yeah, so-
Jennifer, when did you say the council was meeting? September 8th?
4th of
Oh,
August and the 8th of September.
Well,
8th of September, yep.
So why wouldn't the 26th, that gives us,
Dina, it's not respecting the church to move it as forward as quickly as we can, because of what happens if we can't come to a resolution then? We need to do this
That's
sooner,
true.
right?
that's true for the no resolution. Okay.
Then
I
you
was
need-
thinking whatever we decide, it still gives us almost 2 weeks to get it to the council. But, okay.
I mean, the church has been waiting for, I think it's like 18 months since they first submitted their application. I feel, I'm starting to feel guilty at this point.
Right, but it's also something that we have to make sure that we have every T crossed, which we do on all our applications, but because of the size of the application and the extent of it, it just takes a lot more than looking at and saying, Park and Rec wants $20,000 to fence in the dugout.
I agree. I agree, but I think we're there.
And I also feel that
We're not even close to a dollar amount, Kevin. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay, what was
Well,
Jean? You
not
were-
the dollar amount, but
Yeah,
and
Jean,
you're
what were you
also
saying?
looking at it being a church building, so you want to make sure what you're buying.
Correct.
yeah.
Thank you.
No, I understand all that. I get it.
Because mark my word, whatever we recommend and the town council approves, that it's going to be looked at with a fine tooth comb. And that's why we're just trying to cover all our bases. And I apologize to Barbara and Gordon and Rachel and Terry, whoever else is on here from the church, that it's taking so long, but please understand where we're coming from too.
Yeah.
That,
We
You know-
actually crossed the hard hurdle already,
right,
believe it or not.
Mm.
right.
You're looking for a list from the church on August the 5th now, right?
By then,
And you're going to have a meeting on August the 12th.
Yes.
correct.
Correct.
Completed by.
It would help me as a member of the Historic District Commission and also as a member of the CPC to actually walk around that church and take a look at those windows. I noticed that there is a request for storm windows. Storm windows are not historic. We
Mhm.
did not allow the town to put storm windows on
Right.
the academy building. We did not allow the town to put storm windows on the town hall. Instead, they used a more updated window and made other changes so that they wouldn't have to have the storm windows. So yeah, I would like to look at those sorts of things. It always helps me with a project this large. So if there was somebody from the church who could give me a tour of the exterior of the building and maybe point out a few things, it would just help me concretize some of these items in my mind. And I'm not talking about having the architect or paying the architect. Just a member of the church or a member of the committee. It would help me a lot.
I think that's a good point, Bill. As I said before, I drove by the church so slow today just to
Right.
look at the windows. I'd like to see the interior too, because I know some of the things that Gill Associates recommended were on interior windows. So I would kind of like to just walk through, not take a whole day, but
Oh,
I
no,
think Gordon,
no. An
yeah,
hour.
I think Gordon's raising his hand to be the tour guide.
Yeah, I could be the tour guide, but we restricted people. We don't allow people into the church
Exactly.
right now. Because the
Oh,
Why couldn't we do a video? A video of it. Somebody.
I'm more interested in the exterior of the building, not the interior.
right,
Or
but I believe part of their request is for interior too.
It is, but the questions I have are about the exterior.
Okay, okay, we could walk around the outside.
Video it. Somebody could video it.
Yeah, that's a good idea too, Rachel.
I'd go out. You and me, Gordon, let's video them. We'll walk outside.
Well, if somebody could email me with the date, I'm very flexible. I'm retired, so
Me too.
we're here at our beach house, so I can
We do it tomorrow?
yes, I can do it tomorrow. It's going to be a
It's-
nice day.
Yeah, oh, I thought it was gonna rain tomorrow. But
Oh, it is. Oh, maybe I'm thinking
Right.
Friday's.
Bring an umbrella.
yeah, we'll
Friday's a
bring
nice
umbrella.
day, right?
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
could let us know.
it's supposed to storm tomorrow.
Okay, Friday would be fine for me.
Okay.
Any day soon. It would help. me.
Okay, it works for me too.
Friday, what time?
Maybe 11, Gina, or I'm not really an early bird.
Yep, that's fine for me.
Okay, it's a
Is that okay?
good time for me too.
Sure.
Gene, that could be part of our walking group. Well, you and I walking.
Historic district.
Yeah, we can walk the historic district.
And I'll see what I can do about getting into the church because it's been restricted now.
One.
I just
Okay.
want to remind the commission though that you can't have a quorum there, so make sure it's not 5 of you there.
Have to have
Okay,
5 people?
Good
that's
point.
true. Good point, Jennifer.
You have to have 5 people?
No, you cannot have 5 people.
Not have 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
It
Okay,
has to
who
be
wants? Okay, who wants to walk? Bill does. I'd like to.
It'll
Carlton,
depend on your good eyes.
okay. Jean? Or Harry?
Already seen it.
Okay,
I am still a working person, and I am not. Unfortunately, I'm not retired like everyone. but
that's why I didn't ask you, Kevin. I wasn't excluding you.
We don't
Yeah,
want to
I'm-
exclude the working people.
It's too bad, Kevin.
Yeah,
yeah, well,
Yeah.
everyone getting their $600 bonus checks. I'm surprised that everyone's going to go back to work at this point, but you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But
So-
everyone have fun. That's great.
okay, we can meet at 11, and if turns out we have 5, I'll step back.
In the front of the church, that's where we'll be.
Right.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Hey,
I hope that's not too
Bring
much
your face
trouble or
mask,
too
too.
much to ask.
What was that, Gordon?
be sure to bring your face mask Because I'll
Oh,
try.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait till you see Carlton's face mask. He has a good one. But, okay, do we need a vote to continue it? Yeah, you like Carlton's mask? Can you see his picture?
Funny.
Yeah, I like that. Do we need a vote to continue it? A motion to continue?
Yes, we need a motion.
Okay. Somebody make a motion to continue till August 12th?
I will make a motion to continue Central Square Congregational Church application until August 12th.
Okay, that was,
So I'll second and add 6 PM as a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
okay. Okay. We have, Josh, roll call.
Sorry, who was the second?
Was,
Second.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do the roll call now.
Josh, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay. Sorry, it's my air conditioner that makes it muffled. It's very hot back.
Okay, I'm sitting by the window with a breeze, a little breeze. Okay, roll call.
We'll start with Eugenia.
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's approved.
Okay, so that's,
I missed William.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
okay, good. Okay, I want to,
Question.
sure.
Sorry. Just want to, did you decide that you do want to have the CPC members go through each line item individually and decide and mark which ones you feel comfortable
Yes.
approving for funding? And are you planning to, do you want me to collect those before the meeting, or do you want to do it independently and just bring it to the meeting?
What do you think? What do the rest of you think?
I'm happy to compile them. I just want, I just want to provide enough time so that I can compile them and send them out for you all ahead of the meeting to look at them.
I'd like to have that done, so then we have it works a little easier if we have a summary consensus of our input before. It helps.
Right. And Gordon, if we could have that even, I think you had said when you were reading the dates to have it to us by August 5th.
Right.
If we could probably have it just as soon as you could get it to us, I'm not saying stay up until 5 o'clock in the morning tonight doing it, but just so we have time to kind of compare it to what we have, and
Does Barbara know?
we can try to come up with we can each try to come up with a dollar amount.
Does Barbara know who to send it to? I'll be sure to get it to you.
She can send it to Josh and myself.
All right, as soon as we can.
Yep.
Okay.
And I just
Yes.
want to add, if it's any consolation to the church, I'm sure some of these very same questions that we've asked tonight would have been asked by these various town committee members and the town council. So we're preempting a lot of those issues by addressing them now, I think.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. I just want to make a request, just a follow-up to this, to the CPC members, to please get to analyze and get the things to Anna to compile.
Yeah, if you could get it to me the 3rd, August 3rd, that's a Monday, or the Monday, and then I'll plan to send it out a week ahead of time, similar to what I just did for this meeting.
Excellent.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
And I'll follow up by email too, so that everyone has all the dates summarized.
Could you
Okay.
send me a copy of that? I don't have a copy of that, the detailed list.
Oh, the spreadsheet?
Yeah, the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I gotta get one. I'll have it too.
Mhm.
Good.
Okay. That's good. Any questions from Barbara or Terry or Rachel? I still want to know why it says Indian Indian.
Fix
No.
it. How do I fix it?
You go up to, are you on an iPad or a computer?
I'm on a laptop.
Okay, I think it's in the bottom. I usually use the iPad, but I think on the computer it's in the bottom, and you click like your name, and it allows you to change your name. It'll say like change name or change.
Oh, the
something.
bottom of Zoom?
Yep.
Oh, I know I kept wanting to do it and then it would be too late, so.
Or as you sign in, it allows you to say how you want to be signed in.
All right.
You can do it then too.
It took a little while.
That's okay. No problem at all. Do you folks have any questions for us?
I just want to address Gordon for a moment. Gordon, I have a copy right in front of me. I'll make a copy for you so that you can have this whole breakdown, all right?
Great.
Okay,
I need a copy too, Terry,
okay, all right, no problem.
so we could.
Anna,
Looking at it.
Anna, could you email me a copy of that itemization? I don't see it anywhere in any of the emails that I've.
Oh, I just sent it out, but I can send it, I'll send it again after the meeting and with everything that we just talked about in terms of next steps.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see a new email from you. I know you just said you sent it, just
And if
sent.
you still don't get it, just let me know and I'll try and send it to you like through Dropbox or something else.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I have one more question for the more experienced people. Is it customary for the town council and these various committees and the accountant and so forth and so on to question allocations that we make? Do we ever have to justify them anyway or explain them? This is more for my own edification than anything else.
Carlton, can you answer that, or Jennifer?
In other words, are some of the expenditures we've approved disallowed by various town officials, committees, etc.?
We have established a policy that we will provide a very specific memo that Anna generally prepares to the town council, and basically it says what example was the memorial building. There was a memo put together. It goes out what it's for, a little bit of history, what it's for, and I probably will include a little bit of rationale in this one, just as risk avoidance.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
So we're trying to be more formal with this stuff and tell them exactly, because they hardly ever call us in to ask questions. So we need to convey to them the rationale and thinking, especially on this one.
Yeah.
Right. I think the more information we give them, the better.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I think, Bill, you said it yourself, a lot of questions we're asking, the council might ask too.
Right. Okay.
Jennifer, did I get that reasonably right?
We're getting there.
Thumbs up works.
Okay, if that's, I've lost my agenda, but hold on. I know it's here somewhere.
It's a process updates, the next one.
Yep, okay, I got it right here. Okay, I want to thank Barbara, and Gordon, and Terry, and Rachel, whoever else is here, for your patience through this. And the end is in sight, if that's any consolation for this. Okay.
All your
Okay.
that you have put into all of this for our church. So we appreciate all your hard work too.
Yep, we're just trying to make sure, as I said, that every T is crossed and I's are dotted. And as I think Jean said, it's a church, so that could raise questions with the history of the church grants. So we just want to make sure everything is covered, and that we're completely fair to you folks. Okay, moving on, CPC process update. Jennifer Burke has been nicely working on that. She's going to, she can give the update on it.
Yeah, so I've been working on it. I'll admit that I did not realize there was 5 Wednesdays in July. And so I was going to be prepared to present something to you guys next week. When I looked at the calendar, I looked at the last Wednesday of the month instead of the 4th Wednesday of the month. So I'm a little behind the time, so that's my fault. I apologize. So, I was attempting to do something anyway over the weekend, but then life got ahead of me. And I was
Somebody getting raided?
that, so
Not my house, I don't think.
so I apologize again for the delay, but I just ask for your continued patience.
Oh, no problem.
In
Yeah,
August, meet with Carlton and Gina and Anna in a couple weeks to give them, the next round of drafts. So that's where we're at.
And what Jennifer's going to do is, I think it's called the tracking edit. She's going to, the changes that she's making, she's going to track to what it originally was. So we can look at that, and ultimately the CPC is going to decide on what should be in and what shouldn't. But as Jennifer said, she's going to meet with myself and Carlton and Anna in a couple weeks to go over things, and we should have it for not the August 12th meeting, which we can decide on August 12th.
August meeting.
Right, and we can decide on August 12th if we really need to meet twice in August. We can decide that then, but we can talk about.
Jennifer, I know I did a lot of extensive editing, and everything that you had originally is in there. Because it's a track change, but I suggest that you maybe just accept all of mine and then do an easier edit on, so you can reject or accept whatever I put in there, but that may be an easier way.
That's likely what that's what I started to kind of do over the weekend, Carlton, was just accept all your changes and then edit from that point on.
Thank you. I didn't want to make work, but I also didn't want to leave my voice quiet.
Right, and I think it would behoove the committee too, just to see what it originally was before it was changed. And I think, Carlton, remembering back to what you sent, I don't think it showed original. It showed what the proposed thing was, correct?
It shows the original. You just have to read between the changes. It's in there.
Okay. As I said, I'm trying to remember back to when I first read it, but thank you for clarifying that.
So Gina, I just want to say one thing to that though, just so we're not confusing things. It's probably not going to show the original.
Okay.
That I did.
Okay, and
between and some other edits that's already been complete. I think if we go back too far, it'll be too confusing for people. So I think we'll start from this point with Carlton's draft as the quote unquote original document.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Draft 2.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Anybody on the CPC process update? Okay. Discussion, FY21 discussion for consultant work. Jennifer has looked at that list that we had started to look at the last meeting. Some of the things she said isn't in his scope of work. I kind of agree with Jennifer, and I know you addressed this. I kind of agree with what Anna followed up on. That just for the rest of the committee, background to this, some of the things that Anna had, like say a walking tour or set up a table at like Autumn Fest. Jennifer says that's not in the scope of work for J.M. Olson and ultimately Anna. I think the intent was that they're kind of like behind the scenes helping us, and ultimately it would be the CPC members that would man a table or would lead a walk or something like that. But I understand too what Jennifer's saying about the scope of work. Jennifer or Anna, anything to add to that? Okay. Jennifer, is it possible to get, I don't think I've ever seen, just for my own knowledge, in a scope of work? Just so we can see it, make sure that.
I don't have it handy right this second, but I can send it to you tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I didn't expect it right this second. Just so that we know, so it's not like we're asking Anna to do something that is completely out of her scope of work. And I'm sure if it was, she would say, that's not my job. But not like that, just, it's not in our contract scope of work. So just for our knowledge of what is included. Okay, Anna, anything to add for the discussion of the consultant work?
No, but I would then like to bring back the discussion around what, I guess the original discussion around the list of, I put together this kind of list of things that I could work on in addition to providing support to the CPC every month, around the meetings. But this would be kind of like longer term projects to focus on in addition to these kind of every month administrative and technical assistance. So I wanted to bring back that kind of original intent of the discussion on what are kind of the priorities that from the CPC's perspective on what you want me to be focusing on, and I guess of the things that are left kind of in the scope. And Josh, if you can, I don't have screen sharing abilities, but if you, I don't know, make me a host, I can freeze share my screen.
Yep, you should be on that. You should be on that.
1 second. And I can bring back up the list, but I edited it with Jennifer's comments. 1 second, let me just pull it up.
And I think too, while you're pulling it up, I think that we could use that list even as a goal for things to do for CPC for the year. Not necessarily you running them, but putting them together, but things for CPC to look at that we would like to do for the year. Like the first one I saw, reaching out to prospective applicants. But go ahead.
Can everyone see my screen? Is it large enough on the screen for everybody?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I just crossed off the things that Jennifer, after looking at the scope, made comments on. And I also updated, Jennifer, just for your knowledge, I added in any updates to the town website. To the website would be to the town's website, not to the CPC's website, as the information gets transferred from the CPC's old website to the new website. So the things that are kind of left on here are the application materials update, which we started talking about a little bit at the last meeting, especially around creating a kind of evaluation criteria for evaluating applications, as well as a general update to the application and other associated materials that go into the application process. And then other pieces that are still on here are creating marketing information materials such as flyers, pamphlets, and other materials just around how to apply to CPA, what CPA is, and kind of helping to get the word out and promote that the CPC exists and that CPA is a potential resource for community members to apply to for projects. And kind of alongside that, holding CPA information sessions to solicit and cultivate new projects. Depending on COVID, these could either be virtual or in person whenever that becomes possible again. And then adding in updates to the town website about what the CPC has been kind of discussing any projects that have been funded, could be things like that. And then sort of similar to holding CPA information sessions, but working with potential project applicants, either one-on-one or in group sessions, on helping them assemble kind of potential applicants. And in particular, I found this kind of useful for potential applicants who are maybe, you know, a nonprofit or an individual who might not necessarily understand the process, or might not have the resources and time to really go through and put together all the things that go into putting together an application. For example, the church application, which you all just looked at, had kind of a team of people helping to put together all the research and materials that go into an application, but a 1 or 2 person or a smaller nonprofit might not necessarily have kind of the time to put together or the knowledge to put together an application. So that would be kind of working with them one-on-one on doing that. So I don't know if there's any kind of thoughts on that, or if I think of the kind of 5 things that are left, maybe it would just be helpful to kind of think about what are kind of the top 1 or 2 priorities of those 5 that are on here.
I think one of the, in light of the discussions on the church application, that I would like to see as part of our application materials, some type of a evaluation form. That what we can, I know we have some things, it's stated in the application, some of the things we look at, like a completed application, you know, the budget narrative, project narrative like that, but almost like a ranking thing. I'm not sure how the rest feel.
I think also not to get, I don't want to, especially since now it's 8:30, I don't want to spend, I want us in the effort, in the interest of time, I don't want to get too much into a conversation around what actually these things might look like. I think we can save that for another meeting.
Okay, sure.
Or just kind of like in the abstract, is this something that you think would be useful for me to look into, and kind of, I can think about leading a conversation and discussion and putting together kind of pros and cons, or what they would look like. And we can talk about it at another meeting, just in the interest of time. I don't want to, not to say that it is important. I just want to make sure we give enough time to talk about all of these things that I think we could be here all night if we wanted to kind of talk about all of these.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I will say, start working on the application materials if you have time you're looking to spend and the budget's there, that kind of thing. I think that's really important now. So we start, you look at that. The other thing is, I want to talk offline a little bit more about this potential applicant support. I think it's not reaching out, but I think you need to support the CPC, and I'm hoping that's in scope. But the support term is support the CPC when applications for things like the Hanson Farm, if they ever submitted something. That can get really, really deep and detailed. And so maybe the support applicant type stuff, but let's talk about that offline.
Well, I can just say, so mostly the concern about the reaching out to potential applicants and the hosting booths at community events was more, I felt that those were things that committee members and town residents should be doing. That's one of the reasons, you volunteer on committees, is so that you can interact with your fellow residents and, get the pulse of what's going on. So I felt that those were things that you should be doing versus the consultant.
That's an excellent point. I think it's an excellent point, but I think there's some other thinking that we should, maybe the next time we meet together, would go over that. I don't want to bore people tonight.
Well, I agree with what Carlton said. The stronger the application that is submitted, the simpler it will be for the committee to render decisions in a timely manner. So any assistance that you professionals could provide to the project applicants would just make our job much easier and make things go faster. But I wanted to add something about the matrix. Matrices are usually used when a committee is looking at dozens, if not hundreds, of grant applications. And it's a way of sorting and eliminating applications pretty quickly. I've sat on NEH grant applications, and there would be 800 of them. And a matrix would be helpful at that preliminary stage, but we don't have that many applications coming this way. So I'm not sure that we want to spend a lot of time coming up with a matrix because we don't have to filter through hundreds of grant applications.
Thank you, Bill. I agree with that 1,000%.
Okay, good point. I was actually listening. I was just looking at I do have our email from Laurie Guarini for financial, but I'll share that in a second.
Jean or Harry, any thoughts on anything that I talked about that you think so far? What I've heard from Gita Carlton and Bill, who have talked so far, is the application materials and supporting potential applicants and putting together application materials.
Yeah.
No, I'm all set. And hurry up, because I got to get up at 4:30 tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'm going to
Okay,
suggest that we defer the rest of the agenda until the next regularly scheduled meeting, which would be the end of August.
Okay, don't we have to reorganize?
We can do that next meeting. It's very late and people are tired, and
I haven't had dinner.
makes two of us.
Well, I haven't either.
I would like to move, I move that we continue the elements of this agenda that we haven't met to the next meeting.
Second. William.
Okay, did you get those seconds, Josh? I think we had about 4 seconds.
That was Carlton.
Well, Carlton
Can we
made
take
the
that as a roll
motion,
call?
That constitutes a vote.
And don't add anything else to that last agenda.
No. Okay, we have a motion on the table. I was just going to tell you how much money we have, but we have to do this motion first. Okay, so we have a motion to continue the rest of the agenda until, do we want to do it on August 12th, or do we want
The next
subsequent meeting?
regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry if that was in your motion. I missed it. I apologize. Okay, roll call.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yo.
Jean,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
William.
Yes.
It looks like Kevin left.
Looks like we lost Kevin, yeah.
Okay, it was approved.
We're still in quorum, right?
Yeah, because we had 6 before, so now we have 5. Okay, do you want to know just bottom line how much money we have?
Yes.
We have 3 million? No, we have more than 3 million. There's hundreds, thousands.
All
But
those
why don't we just save some time,
Yeah,
send it out, and we'll look at it. We can talk about it in August.
Yeah,
It
this
hasn't
is
moved
just
much.
her. Yeah, it's not the full report. She just gave the bottom line, and she said she's been out straight all day, like as we said, closing everything out and trying to get the new fiscal year started. So she's been straight out, but she will, she'll forward to you on the full report.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Harry.
Carlton was the first.
Okay, roll call.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yo.
Jean,
Yes.
Yes.
William,
Yes. Sorry, I spoke out of turn there.
Harry.
Yes.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
And it's only 100.
I actually have nothing to do for the next couple, like till I go to bed. If anybody wants to just continue.
Are we adjourned?
We're adjourned. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank